And when we approach to evangelize, and most people say, oh yeah, I go to church already. I belong to certain church. So many people told me, so they cannot go any further. That's it. Now the issue is that really all? Or is there any way we can be sure that whether a person is true Christian or not? If he or she is not, then what? We have to evangelize those people. So I suggest the two basic questions we can diagnose that person's Christianity. The first thing is, yes, what happened to you if you die? When you die, then what happens? Where are you going? And many different answers can come, but if or she says, I go to heaven, that's the right answer. But how? Why do you get into the heaven? And the right answer is through faith in Jesus Christ. That's the right answer. So this is the first question we can ask to a person, whether he or she is a true Christian or not. But think about it. This kind of answer can come from anybody's head. And maybe that answer does not come from his or her heart. Maybe that person is self-deceiving, believing he is going to heaven. Actually, he is not. Because there are many people say they are Christians, but actually, maybe this is not true. So I suggest the second question to ask. If you go to church, what is the purpose and the reason going to that particular church? In other words, are you trying to serve yourself? Or are you trying to serve Jesus? This is really a big question. If you are Christian, then what is your Christian life about? Serving you or serving Jesus? Which one is it? Theologically, we are saved by faith, through faith in Jesus Christ. Nothing else. But if you are truly saved, then something has to show up externally in your life, in your behavior. If you do not see any evidence of your inward true faith, then we have to ask a question, whether you are really Christian or not. Serving self is a big problem for everybody. And serving Jesus is the goal. When we try and continue to serve ourselves, then we better ask our Christianity, Christian faith, at the beginning. When you shop around the church to satisfy your selfish demand, if you continue that, then my suggestion is question your Christian faith from the beginning, whether you are really Christian or not. But if you find that you are serving Jesus, then probably you are really Christian. In other words, we cannot say, I am saved through the faith in Jesus Christ. I believe in Jesus. Emphasizing, and yet you cannot live for you. The other day, I had a brief conversation with other pastors. And he said, the commercialism is a big problem in Christian church today. consumerism is really problem. It is everywhere. People are shopping around looking for sale to get the maximum return, paying a least price. So they are shopping around the church. And the church is developing products to satisfy those kind of people's demand. And gathering big crowd by providing those products. So they can stay church and very active, being satisfied year after year, but real true faith never grows. There are a lot of people very active, believing firmly they are saved and very active in the church. Later, at a certain moment, they realize they are not saved from the beginning all along. Even some pastors say that. They were ministering very successful church, and yet they realize that they are not saved and recommitted themselves to Jesus Christ. It is a real serious issue. So when we try to evangelize people, we have to be sure whether that person is true Christian or not, regardless he is or she is attending a church. Do you think you really have the evidence in your life, in your behavior, as a saved true Christian? The head knowledge, correct answer from your head is not enough. You yourself examine yourself whether you have some evidence of your authentic faith. That's why Paul said here in 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5, test yourselves to see if you are in the faith. Examine yourselves. Or do you not recognize that this about yourselves, that Jesus Christ is in you, unless indeed you fail the test? Being a Christian is answering the correct, not in answering correct question from your head. Being a true Christian is Jesus living in you. And Jesus is living through you. So the evidence in your life is more important. In Acts chapter 26, we can see the Paul's testimony of his conversion, his being saved, and also his obedience to the command of Jesus. He traveled extensively, and after the third missionary journey, he went to Jerusalem. And there, the Jewish people caused a riot to eliminate Paul. It was so severe, the Roman soldiers got into and grabbed him and tried to find out what's going on. So he was arrested, and for about more than 2 years he was imprisoned. And new governor came, Festus. And as soon as the new governor came, Jewish people tried to accuse Paul again. And several times they plotted to assassinate Paul, asking him to move the location from Caesarea to Jerusalem. And in the road, they could attack and kill Paul. Paul knew it. So Paul wanted to protect himself. Yes, he was ready to die, but not like that. So he used his citizenship of Roman, and he appealed to Caesar. So the governor has to protect Paul and send him to Rome. So before sending him, they had a hearing, kind of trying to find out what is going on, what is the core issue here with him. So Paul was brought in front of the Festus, the governor, and also the Agrippa king, and many the officials. And Paul was permitted to defend himself, explain his situation. And we can see in Acts chapter 26, Paul mentioned about his background. He was educated and grew up as a very strict Pharisee in Judaism. And also, he pointed, the key point, the focus of this whole problem is the resurrection of the dead. That is the key issue here. And he said he was a vigorous persecutor and opposer of Jesus Christ. And then he said how he met Jesus and was saved. When he was going to Damascus, suddenly on the road, there bright light, brighter than the sun, shone around them, and everybody was knocked on the ground. And he heard a voice saying, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" He said, "Who are you, Lord?" He said, "I am Jesus whom you are persecuting." That's the moment he was changed. I believe he was saved. The resurrected Jesus met him. Up to that point, Paul was a very honest and a sincere person, but he was sincerely wrong. Now that was corrected, then he became totally different person. And then he said, Jesus told me what to do. Why did he choose him, and for what? The mission was given to him. And Paul said, I was very obedient to this mission from that moment until now. Because of that, there was a lot of danger, many dangers of my life. But God protected me and used me to preach to many, many people about resurrection of Jesus. That was his point. When he said about this, up to this point, the governor Festus said, "Oh, Paul, you are crazy. You are out of your mind. Your many, many education and knowledge drove you crazy. Basically, you are fanatic." And King Agrippa said, in short few words, "You are trying to make me act like a Christian." In other words, they rejected. So after that, Paul was sent to Rome to be tried before the Caesar. At that time, the Caesar was Nero. Now we want to learn from his testimony how he lived we are trying to learn from his conversion testimony and also his mission and his life. We cannot consider this as a story of somebody else, nothing to do with us. We must be able to find ourselves in his testimony. There has to be some common ground between you and Paul. What is your salvation testimony? What is your mission you received from Jesus? Is it totally different from what Paul received? Or should it be the same? And what are you doing about this? Is your life showing the evidence of your Christian faith? Or just your answer is, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus, I go to heaven. But in your life it doesn't show anything about it. Paul shows us great example here. Especially let's examine verse 16, 17, 18, the mission Paul received from Jesus Christ. 16 says, but arise and stand on your feet. For this purpose I have appeared to you, to appoint you a minister and a witness, not only to the things which you have seen, but also to the things in which I will appear to you. Jesus is telling him to be a minister and a witness. Minister means a servant, like a slave. Self-serving Christians cannot be true Christians. What is your answer? Are you serving yourself? Looking for church to satisfy yourself? Or are you trying to serve Jesus in the church? The place you can serve Jesus, not to satisfy you. That point is very clear here. He is calling us to be servant of Jesus. Don't serve yourself. Now second, verse 17, delivering you from the Jewish people and from the Gentiles to whom I'm sending you. Protecting from Jewish people and Gentiles and send Paul to those people. Sending out. You are being sent out after this service to your home, to your job, workplace, to your social circle. Jesus is sending you out with a mission. And thirdly, verse 18 says, what? For what? To open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light and from the dominions of Satan to God, in order that they may receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who have been sanctified by faith in me. So he is sending Paul and he is sending each one of you to people around you you can reach. To achieve what? Open their eyes so that they can see the light from darkness. And to move them from the dominion of Satan to the dominion of God. So that they can have inheritance, that means the blessedness of the kingdom of God with all the saved believers. It is a tremendous mission here. There is no room for commercialism here. There is no room for the consumerism in this mission here. We have to change. And Paul said he was faithful to this command. And we can see in the Bible, the man of his living totally sacrificed himself, serving Jesus Christ. not seeking his own interest, but serving Jesus and looking for the reward Jesus is going to give him. Let's examine ourselves whether we are Christian, not just by mouth, but with the evidence of our life. Serving him, not self. May God bless every one of you to be a faithful servant of Jesus Christ.